the physical fitness, or it is the sports performance. And this nourishment to all the cells and organisms of the materials which is necessary in the form of food aims to support life, not just for the survival, but also in order to meet the special requirement of those special times in the lives of men and women. There are various other definitions which are prevalent amongst the masses or amongst the nutritionists, experts. It is the study of nutrients which are present in the food, the edible components of the food, the non-edible components of the food, the starch, the cellulite, the carbohydrates, how they are metabolized, how does catabolism and anabolism takes place right from large intestine to, we call it gut, from large intestine to the small intestine, and what is its combination with the intake of water, how does the circulation of various essential nutrients inside the body takes place. In the nutshell, how our body utilizes all these nutrients and their relationship between the various kinds of diets, their importance with regard to our general health and physical fitness related health, as well as the health related physical fitness components, the body composition, and of course in the recovery, recuperation from any kind of illness or disease. Then the third most common definition which is prevalent is the nutrition is a science. I would call it an art as well, because time management is one of the very important skills we all know. Diet and nutrition management is another very important factor. If you are able to master, if you are able to calculate, if you are able to manipulate and regulate your diet, then you are actually doing a lot of justice with your brain and your gut. And better the gut brain axis relationship, better the flow of nutrients, better the flow of neurons in your brain, the improved function of your large intestine, the proper cleansing and timely detoxification of your body plays a very important role, and it depends upon the various factors of which the food is composed, and also the way in which proper nutrition is brought about. So it's not just the intake of the food, but also the quality of the food. And now the third term which has come up very prominently is the timing of your meals. That plays an important role in deciding upon the health of your overall body. Now we all know that the athletes do get injured, and there is a very high prevalence of getting some kind of relapse amongst the children or the student or the athletes who are recovering from some kind of disease or illness or some kind of sports injury. During this period of intensive or extensive care, either at the primary, secondary, or tertiary level, it is your mindset that plays an important role. But equally important role is played by the nutrition. You must have seen in the big, big hospitals wherein people are suffering from or recovering, recuperating after surgery or after embolization or any kind of ailment. There is always by default a nutritionist who is attached. To quote an example, for example, an egg white is recommended often in order to fulfill the protein requirements. But egg yolk is often ignored by many. But when you have recovered from excessive blood loss, or you are recovering from excessive blood loss, Egg yolk is deliberately recommended for that particular recovery, especially people who are in the old age, because egg yolk is a very, very rich source of a lot of trace elements, the minerals, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin D, E, because all these are fat soluble and most of the nutrition consists of fat intake. So that the energy production is taking place maximum with the utilization of body fat. Similarly, in the pregnant woman or after the delivery, the nursing mothers are also given a lot of protein and fat intake diets. In order for them to utilize this, learn their body must use to learn to utilize these organic and inorganic sources of carbohydrate, fats, and protein, but in a proper proportion. So, nutrition alone is not sufficient. It is your mindset and it is also the training, that plays a very, very important role. Better trained the person, the more his or her capacity will be to utilize the rich sources of fuel. And we all know that 1 gram of carbohydrate gives us 4 kilocalories, whereas 1 gram of protein also gives us 4 calories. But the richest source in terms of giving number of calories is the fat fuel, which gives us 9 calories per gram. Now, why I am saying that we should be physically active in all stages of our lives is because you must have seen whenever you train hard, you feel more hungry and more often you feel hungry. Now, training helps because number one, it improves the cardiovascular system involving oxygen delivery. Your heart, your circulation will be working better because of bradycardia condition. Your heart size will be increased, heart rate will be lower, cardiac output, stroke volume into heart rate will be better, will be higher. Number two, when you do exercise, it increases the number of mitochondria. And number three is training increases the level of enzymes which are involved in the aerobic metabolism of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, thus increasing the capacity for more and more utilization of the adipose tissue. The fatty acid synthesis becomes more and more. Your body starts producing more and more fat out of whatever you eat. If you eat carbohydrate, again the synthesis of fatty acids increases. But the utilization of fatty acid as a primary fuel also increases. Now, these three changes are seen in the fast twitch fibers type 2A that convert the slow twitch fibers. When aerobic activity ceases, they revert back to becoming fast twitch fibers. Because from energy continuum, you must be aware that whenever we start a particular vigorous activity in the first 5 to 10 seconds, it is the ATP-CP system. And then it slowly, in the next 30 seconds to 60 seconds, up to 3 minutes also, it switches to glycolytic system. And then when there is enough sufficient oxygen intake, we switch on to the aerobic system, wherein primary fuel is the fat. So this energy continuum must be understood before we understand nutrition. Now, dietetics, which is the which is a less known term, but often it is used in terms of communicating and interpreting the science of nutrition to the people in a common language. How they can make practical choices about their food and lifestyle is the domain of the dietitian. So a dietitian is different than a nutritionist, and a nutritionist is different than a sports nutritionist. When it comes to sports nutrition, we all know that the number of calorie requirement or the number of energy requirement is much higher as compared to the lay person, as compared to a common person. So this science of nutrition that focus primarily on food first. This is the main difference, you know. A nutritionist would focus on the components of food, you know, how much fat is present in fruit X or fruit Y or fruit or Z. The food which we are consuming, the food which is locally available. And then after ascertaining the availability of the food which is available, the edible food which is available, the vegetables available or the condiments available according to the regional availabilities. For example, in the seashores you will find seafood. So the you will find sardines are more available. So a nutritionist would focus on the availability of food, whether a particular community people, by virtue of their culture or tradition, or by virtue of their geographical location, are they having more of seafood, or are they having they consume do they consume more protein by default? And if at all they consume more protein, then what exactly are the various health conditions do they go through? That is the subject, that is the domain of a nutritionist. And after studying food first, a nutritionist would then look into its effects on the people. For example, what are the deficiencies which are more prevalent in that case? And the role of a nutritionist is actually a little bit limited to only food and its components, but not understanding the environmental conditions. For example, in Delhi, people are having accessibility to different kinds of foods. I mean, any metro city for that matter, if you see, there is abundance. There is no shortage of fruits and vegetables. Even off-season vegetables are available. You will find all kind of fruits in the winter, and in the summer also you can find a lot of other non-seasonal vegetables and fruits. So a nutritionist would only study the food and its impact on people according to their requirements. Of course, there is always, just like training in nutrition also, there is always a target population, you know, that aims to reach specific goals. We all are working human beings. Some people work 80% of the do mental 80% of the mental work and 20% of the physical work, whereas others do 50-50. And the third category can be doing 80% of the physical work and 20% of the mental work. Now, a dietitian would look at a more holistic side of a human being. They look at the entire human being and how does human health. He first studies the human health. What are the requirements of human rather than what is available as a food. A dietitian would study what is the requirement of a human being. For example, when you are growing in a growing age, the requirement is different. In the adolescent age, the requirement shifts towards more protein. When you participate in sports, high intensity workouts, the requirement of protein increases. At some point of time, a person might feel like losing body weight, losing specific body weight. And some people who feel they are too thin or skinny, they might want to gain more body weight. So it is the dietitian who looks at the requirement of the human beings and how that human's general health is influenced by the food. So the approach, the only difference is between the approach. Now, as opposed to dietitians who are qualified to diagnose eating disorders also, that's why I said the role is a little wider. They're supposed to diagnose the eating disorders amongst the humans. That's why I said that it is the human being who is the main target. And according to the eating disorder, or according to the particular condition a person is going through, for example, a pregnant lady or a female athlete who would like to train harder in order to win a medal, a person who is diabetic and who would like to participate in sports, how these people can maintain their healthy medical conditions besides giving birth to a child or besides giving good performance. On the other hand, a nutritionist would deal with the general nutritional aims and behaviors. A dietitian and nutritionist have one thing in common. It is not to drastically change the lifestyle, or whatever locally available fruits and vegetables are available. A dietitian and a nutritionist would try to get maximum macro and micronutrients out of the locally available food. So a nutritionist would deal with the general nutrition, its aims and the behaviors. And nutritionists are often employed in the schools, hospitals, cafeterias, long-term care facilities, in the geriatric healthcare, and also are often employed by the athletic organizations. Now, food I have already spoken about in the previous session. I would say any edible part is diet, whatever kind of foods and beverages which we consume, not what we strive for or crave for, but our staple diet is considered as diet. Now, energy means our own capacity to perform a particular task, or whenever we are multitasking tasking throughout the day, that particular energy or the chemical energy in the form of food that we consume, and how and in what way and at what level this chemical energy is converted into mechanical, electrical, or heat energy, and more so when we are focusing on maximum output. So the energy balance is required to be maintained. Just to give you an example, early morning heavy breakfast will make you lethargic throughout the next 3 to 4 hours. Therefore, it is extremely important that what kind of work you are going to do in the next 3 to 4 hours, and what is the energy that is essentially required in order to keep you not only alert but also mentally and physically more productive. And nutrients I have already mentioned in the previous slides. Now there are two kind of substances. One are the nutrient substances that we consume, and the others are the non-nutrient substances. Non-nutrient means those which are giving us no caloric value. They do give us caloric value, but they are not rich in trace elements. That means they are poor in vitamins and minerals. They are poor in regulating the enzymes and the hormones. Although enzymes are also kind of hormones, most of the enzymes are hormones only. So the foods that contain not non-nutrient substances, they don't provide us energy per se, but they are essential for keeping our large and small intestine healthy, and for proper circulation inside the body. Like fibers, when we eat the raw fruit or the raw vegetables, all kind of phytochemicals, the pigments, the natural, when I talk about additives, it is the natural additives that give color. For example, chlorophyll is a natural additive that gives color to the fruits, that gives green color. You must have seen red color fruits, green, dark green vegetables, or purple color fruits, or any kind of natural colors. For example, beetroot. The moment you consume beetroot, you will see your your urine also becomes dark. Similarly, various alcohols, etc., are all non-nutrient substances. Now, we all know all these six classes of nutrients, wherein water is not considered as a nutrient, but a very important supporter or an essential component that helps in the transportation, maintaining the body temperature, and circulation inside the body. Now, to talk about the carbohydrates, that is, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen molecules are present here. Nitrogen is not there. When we say CHON, it is protein, and when the nitrogen component is not present, we call it carbohydrate. Now, there are two types of carbohydrate: simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. A large class of nutrients, including our refined sugars, the starches. For example, when we eat chapati and rice, it's rich in starch, and the fibers means without peeling when we consume a fruit or a vegetable, and the function is that they provide the primary source of our energy, not the richest source. Please remember, I'm talking about the carbohydrates providing the primary source. That means main source of energy, because by default, 400 to 600 grams of carbohydrate we consume in the Indian staple diet. You will find by default we have 55%, approximately 55% carbohydrate. Look at the staple diet: rice, barley, maize, uh, or chapati, or any kind of vegetables or fruits which are available around us, and honey, jaggery, all these are carbohydrates. So by default, our Indian staple diet is rich in carbohydrates. Now, but we have to make choices. Now, in the form of high fructose or the diets which are high in glycemic index, we call it GI, high GI foods. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, which are used in making soft drinks, cookies, cakes, candies, jams, jellies, and other sweetened foods, naturally sweetened or artificially sweetened, in both ways. So, high amount of fructose or sucrose, over the table sugar, is dangerous in all walks of life. I explain in next few slides how it actually makes you feel more full and takes the place of complex carbohydrates and essential fats and proteins. And we don't need actually extra sugar at all, because it is naturally present in the fruits and milk that we consume. Now, these starchy foods are automatically rich in probiotics. I'll talk about prebiotics and probiotics. So whenever you're consuming full cream yogurt, it is a very good diet that is not only rich in prebiotics, and also the breads, the breakfast cereals, the potatoes and the beans. They contain starch, and starch is essential, as I told you earlier, in cleansing our gut. Fiber can't be broken down or digested in the body, so it is automatically excreted. Therefore, does not provide energy for the body. But as I said, it is the good source of carbohydrates are, sorry, the good source of fiber that is often consumed with the vegetable rich carbohydrate or the in the form of salads or in the form of fruit salads or in the form of fruits if eaten raw or in the form of juices also, but more so when we consume raw fruit, the fiber is automatically consumed. It is present in the legumes, that is dried beans and peas, the fruits, the vegetables, whole grain foods such as whole wheat, bread, cereal, nuts, and seeds. Now, to talk about lipids, the most familiar lipids are our fats and oils, which are found in butter, vegetable oils, and mayonnaise. Most breads, cereals, pastas, fruits, and vegetables have little or no fat. That is why the combination of both these types of food is important. For example, after you have performed a heavy workout, it should be full cream chocolate milk with a vegetable sandwich. Early morning also for the children, we recommend high carbohydrate kind of foods, so that there is a combination. Whatever deficiency is there in the high fat diet is taken over or is compensated by the high carbohydrate diet. So whenever we consume rice and pulses together, rice and dal combination together, they both help each other in becoming more and more fortified. So this fortified form of dal chawal is a very good combination of fat and protein and carbohydrate. In terms of recovery meals also, along with fruit juices, it is recommended to consume a rich burger, homemade burger. When I say burger, it doesn't mean a processed food or a grilled sandwich. That is going to give you enough food, enough protein, so that you are able to recover faster from that workout. Now, triglycerides are also a major form of lipids. They provide energy for the body as well as a way to store this energy as a body fat. And especially for the endurance runners, they need to consume the diet which is rich in triglycerides. The protein, of course, we will talk about protein in detail and how and at what time of what type of nutritional supplements in the form of creatine or creatine monohydrate we can use these amino acids or the protein supplements. We'll talk about that later during this session only. These are the major structural components. You must have heard about branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. 22 essential amino acids are available. Total protein amino acids are 22 in this number. However, 9 types of essential amino acids, which must be consumed from outside through food. So that is why they are called essential amino acids. Vitamins and minerals. I'm skipping deliberately and the role of water over the period of time in the next slides when we are going to talk about how we are preparing our diet chart and with what kind of foods are we preparing our diet chart. I'll be talking about these micronutrients as well. So just I have given an overview of the macronutrients. So this is a summing up slide actually with regard to the basic understanding of our macro and micronutrients. So only two of the foods are inorganic foods because they don't give us energy, but they are very, very important for supporting the absorption, assimilation of the macronutrients, that is carbohydrate, fats, and proteins, which is water and the vitamins. They don't give us energy, but they are important for the circulation. As said here, the the important thing to note here is the importance of alcohol. Now, alcohol also contributes some calories per gram, which is 7 in number, that can be used for energy, but it is not considered as a nutrient because it interferes with the body's growth, maintenance, and repair. Why? Because it destroys the acid or the chemical composition of our stomach acid. It neutralizes the acid, which is working at different levels in metabolizing carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. That is why alcohol is not considered as a nutrient, though it provides energy, but it interferes with the other essential functions. And these essential functions are body's growth, maintenance, and repair. Because there is a lot of controversy, around that the athletes who consume alcohol, why their performances are not deteriorating. They consume this much of alcohol in this much of form, and we have red wines. So, what exactly is the impact? The impact is directly on the performance in terms of general gut health and also the absorption and breakdown of those essential macronutrients and micronutrients. Alcohol also is said to have an adverse effect on our liver. And we all know that the beta cells of the liver and the main metabolism of fat inside the body takes place inside the liver. Fat and protein is metabolized mainly by the liver. So the moment you consume alcohol, this particular natural way in which our liver functions suffers to a very great extent. Now here are some again the basic functions in terms of conversion of calories to energy, energy to calories. This is important for the research scholars because sometimes you find the studies which are available online on the internet wherein you will find the word being used calories and kilocalories interchangeably. But when they are talking about calories, please be sure that they are talking about kilocalories. When I talk about 10 calories, I'm saying kilocalories. Although the correct parlance is that 1 kilocalorie has 1,000 calories. When I say calorie, I mean to say it is the kilocalorie. So this is the basic definition, and how to convert this into joules and kilojoules. This is the conversion equations or the conversion all digits which we can use to convert from calories to joules and joules to calories. Now, whenever we calculate the effect of training on human beings, whenever we talk about energy continuum or the number of kilocalories that the body requires, there are four factors which are very important. Number one is the basal metabolism or the BMR in terms of the thermic effect of food, because food also has its own temperature at which it is grown, at which it is consumed. And whenever this food is consumed under certain conditions, environmental conditions, not only outside but also the inside, we call it the thermic effect of food itself. Second one is the environmental temperature, whether we are living in high temperature zones or humid zones or in the extremely low temperature zones like in the mountains. The basal metabolism, at what rate the minimum energy a person is consuming while doing daily day-to-day tasks for the vital functions. For example, our heart rate is always working, our lungs are always working, we are breathing, our cellular respiration is taking place inside the body. The body is continuously and non-stop, it is preparing energy, it is storing energy, it is consuming the food. Even if we are not eating anything, even if we are in a fasting mode, there is a requirement of energy which is taken care of automatically by the functioning of our vital organs. So this particular exchange of gases, this particular circulation which is happening, we call it in yoga Jivani Shakti, the circulation. For example, heart is pumping the blood to all, and the cells which are self-sustaining units, which are preparing protein, making proteins, the synthesis of fat, the metabolism of the carbohydrates to produce energy, the formation of ATP, ADP, the contraction of our muscles, even if we are sitting. This BMR depends upon the factors like gender, age, growth, height, temperature, and whether we are suffering from any disease, whether the body temperature is high or low, and what kind of stressors are acting around us. Are we living in a or working out in a very hot temperature? For example, for acclimatization purpose, the athletes deliberately perform exercises, high intensity exercise and endurance running exercises on the at Shilaru camp in Shimla. You must have heard about the acclimatization that takes place in the places where the oxygen content is low. So deliberately, because just to acclimatize as well as to make their body more and more adaptable to working out in the less available oxygen zones. That's what we call acclimatization. So while exercising, your BMR increases. If you smoke, if you consume caffeine, and what type of coffee and caffeine, there is a difference between coffee and caffeine. What type of coffee and caffeine you are consuming, how much is the caffeine content inside your blood, that remains even after you have performed a workout. And of course, the rest and sleep defines how much your body actually requires in terms of calories. So these are the examples just as explained in the previous slides. The basal metabolic rate also decreases when you diet or eat fewer calories than normal. When do we do that? We often tend to, the athletes also tend to lose more and more body weight. But remember, the objective is not to lose the body weight by losing muscle mass, but to lose the body weight by by making the body utilize more and more fat. And in the presence of oxygen, when your body trains harder, as I said earlier, you actually increase the number of mitochondrial cells, and they are the powerhouse. So automatically you teach your body to utilize more and more fat as a fuel, sparing glycogen to be utilized whenever you have to make a last minute spurt during your 400-meter race or 800-meter race. So those energy reserves, carbohydrate reserves that are required by an athlete when he or she has to perform the last minute action or the last minute effort in order to win a race or win a particular bout, that glycogen sparing mechanism has to be taught through training. And there is no other alternative to teaching yourself how to do the glycogen sparing in the muscles, in the blood, and utilizing more and more fat while you are performing the regular intervals of your exercise, or you're trying to maintain your pace in that 400 or 800-meter race. So the basal metabolic rate actually accounts for the largest percentage of energy expended. Some people call it a resting metabolic rate. I would say that this is a more technically accurate word, RMR, because BMR is something which we measure the moment we get out of the bed immediately. The heart rate or the pulse rate which is going on at that moment of time is called BMR. And about two-thirds for these individuals who are not very active. So the energy expenditure is actually two-thirds of the individuals who are not very active. For physically active people, the BMR will be very high. Physical activity, the level of physical activity influences how we utilize the nutrition or the food. So the thermic effect of food needs to be calculated. Why? Because whenever we calculate the amount of energy which is required or the amount of energy which is to be expended, there has to be a ratio between the energy expenditure and the energy required. So we must take into effect the two factors, but one is the thermic effect that makes 5 to 10% of the total impact. And second one is the environmental temperature that also contributes to a greater extent, because there is blood heat, there is extra energy that is expanded in cooling down. So a chemical analysis of the body would show that our body is made up of suppose there is a healthy 150 pound body. If you have 150 pound body, if you divide this by 2.20, you will get the body weight in kg. So that comes out to be around 65 kg of a person. 90 pounds of the water and about 20 to 45 pounds of the fat is comprising of that 65 kg person. The remaining pounds are mostly protein. So often we say that between 20 to 35% of the intake should be from protein, carbohydrate, and the major minerals which are required for bone health. Because it is not just the body fat or the bones, but it is the most of the components are comprising of protein and the bones and the water component, which is 60% of the overall body composition. So that is why the essential component, other than speed, skill, strength, endurance, body composition is a very, very important component that plays equally good role as far as the health related physical fitness is concerned, and also the physical fitness related, performance related physical fitness is concerned. So here is an example. Water consists of 60%. That means circulation, your blood, other kinds of tissues, metabolites, and fluids. When I say water, it means all kind of fluids. And the fascia also, just below the skin, we call it fascia, is also comprising of water. And 2% is vitamins and minerals. Protein should be between 15% to 20%, and body fat is 20 to 25% for a 65-year-old normal person. So the chemical composition is being taken care of, and this is the table that shows that how much is the class of nutrients that contributes to the carbon component is present in all the four essential organic nutrients, which is vitamins, proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates, whereas minerals and waters are considered as inorganic nutrients that do not have a carbon molecule. That is why they are called inorganic nutrients. They do have hydrogen and oxygen, but minerals have the inorganic components amongst the inorganic organic nutrients. They are rich in carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen only. The only exception is with protein, as I said earlier, that it has nitrogen molecule also. Some proteins also contain mineral sulfur, and some vitamins contain nitrogen, but some contain minerals also. Now it is extremely important here to study that how should a diet be planned. So it is not important to consume very rich diet in terms of more and more fat and protein intake. The richness in terms of quantity is equally important, but richness in terms of quality is equally important. Why I'm saying this is because, to give you an example of a mountaineering athlete or a trekker, they cannot carry all those heavy vegetables and fruits along with them because their performance will suffer. So what they do is, in spite of carrying heavy fruits and vegetables along the way, they carry nuts and seeds. So their diet, which is rich, nutrient dense, right? They are getting equal supply of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins by consuming more and more nuts, where they're not carrying heavy material. So in that sense, whenever we plan our diet, let us be very sure that it should not be heavy, but nutrient density of the nutrient. To give you an example, the typical can of cola, that is 12 fluid ounces, contributes to large amount of sugar. Now here you can see there is a 40 grams of sugar when you consume one can of any cola. 10 teaspoons of sugar you are consuming. That does not contain the essential nutrients like vitamins and virtually no minerals, although calories are very high. If you compare the calories, you will find that 86 calories per cup are provided by the skimmed milk, and along with many other vitamins and minerals. So the only difference is that the calories provided by skimmed milk are equally or even more than sugar. But the difference is that the essential minerals and vitamins are also provided by consuming skimmed milk or those granola bars. You must have seen those bars which are available. Often the trekkers and mountaineers carry those energy bars with them, Patanjali energy bar or other kind of energy bars, and they carry the cups of these Maggie, ready to cook Maggie, They are not even lighter to carry, but they are calorie dense. So you get 97 calories by virtue of consuming milk and these natural bars, which are calorie dense. Per cup, the kilocalories are much higher than carrying colas or consuming a lot of vegetables and fruits, which is not possible on your way to actually stop, cook, and then further go on. So the continuous source of energy is actually taken care of when you are consuming the calorie dense, nutrient dense food. Here is another high density example of high nutrient density food. Now, in the left side, you can see high nutrient density food, which is 450 grams of breakfast. That is going to give you 500 kilocalories. Remember, if you perform 30 minutes of high intensity workout, you are actually burning 400 kilocalories. So the energy density is 1.1. How do we calculate the energy density? When we divide the total number of grams with the total calories which are present. So you can see the calorie density here is 1.1, right? Kilocalories per gram. In the low nutrient density food, a 144 gram breakfast delivers. For example, here also you will find 500 calories are provided by these bagels, donuts, and a cup of cola. So the energy density here is 3.5 kilocalories per gram. So the energy density is higher, but here the energy density is lower, but the minerals and vitamins capacity is much higher. Now the empty calories are provided. That is why I said that whenever we consume refined grains, the butter, the beer, the wine, high fat foods such as uncrushed cooked food, fried chicken, pizza, and French fries, the, the, the provision of calorie density is lower. In terms of calories, it is higher, but the nutrient supply is much, much less. Now, energy funda can be understood through the availability of fat. Not all fatty acids may provide the same amount of energy. For example, 1 gram of fat, I said 9 kilocalories, because when we multiply this by 4.16, we get the kilojoules. And whenever there is a positive calorie balance, we gain weight. That means intake is 500 kilocalories and the consumption is 300 calories. For example, as I said earlier, there is a calorie deficit of 200 calories in the breakfast itself. So this makes it a positive calorie balance. So overall, whenever there is a calorie balance, a positive calorie balance of 1500 calories over the period of 1 week, for example, you tend to get around 2.20 pounds. So whenever this calorie balance is positive, you you gain weight, and whenever there is a negative calorie balance, you lose weight. And it is always beneficiary to lose body weight with nutrition control rather than doing exercise. Why? Because there is a metabolic adaptation to exercise. Why I'm saying this is there are people who often complain that after doing exercise, despite doing exercise, they are not able to lose weight. This is happening because of metabolic adaptations, and whenever you have done exercise like swimming, you tend to feel more and more hungry, and then you tend to eat more. So more calories you are consuming actually. You're burnt only 500 calories, whereas you've consumed when you feel angry 700 hungry, you consume 700 or 800 calories. So that is going to be actually detrimental in the sense that you have consumed more and more fat just to feel more and more satisfied. So when you consume calorie dense food, it is not only not only giving you the essential nutrients, but also it makes you feel full and satisfied. So that feeling of fullness and satisfaction with consuming nuts and seeds is more important than doing a workout. So workout will fail if you are not controlling your nutrition and your dietary intake. So here is a very good method. When you prepare a diet chart, it is important to understand and calculate the basal metabolic rate of an individual. So this table will always help you. You can commit this to your memory, or you can keep it as a ready reckoner for you. These equations are very easy to remember. I remember these equations by heart now because often I use them. So whenever you use them more often in calculating the dietary intakes, carbohydrate intake, carbohydrate, fat, and protein, mainly these three intakes, You can easily remember them. For the age group of 15 to 30, the multiplication factor is 6.95. Now, this is a factor which is being calculated by the scientists or the researchers by applying regression analysis. So, there is this constant factor which is always there. For 15 to 30, it is 6.95. This is the predictive equation, which is a high level of predicting ability, multiplied by the body weight. Remember, it should be in pounds. So whenever you have body weight in kg, multiplied that by 2.20. And this is also a constant factor, that is 679. This is a constant digit. For 30 to 60 years, whenever you are going to calculate the BMR, this is the equation. And for women, these are the two equations which we use. I'll show you an example how we calculate the basic metabolic rate. Because lower the BMR, accordingly we can, you know, decide upon or calculate the calorie consumption and the calorie factors. Now here is the activity factors also that need to be taken care of. So these are also developed over the period of time by the researchers through regression analysis, through regression equation. So whenever you are seated and you are sedentary, your lifestyle is sedentary, the activity factor that need to be taken into consideration is 1.2. So higher the activity factor, more the active the person is. So if you think any of these categories a person falls into, you can accordingly take that particular factor and need not necessarily be very strict with this. For example, somebody says that I'm between light to moderate, then you are free to use the mean value of 1.4 to 1.6, that is 1.5. Here you can utilize 1.3 also, because it is going to give you this particular formulas can give you a very good insight into the person's basal metabolic rate, and then accordingly decide upon what kind of nutrition is required. Third important factor when you prepare a diet chart or a nutrition chart is to estimate the energy requirement according to the basal metabolic rate. As I said in the previous slide, here I said basal metabolic rate is essential to be calculated. Secondly, estimated activity factor need to be decided. Then only we can identify the estimated energy requirement in terms of kilocalories per day. So when you have BMR, when you have the activity factor, the estimated energy requirement can be calculated. Let us see with an example. In a very short while, in the next slides, I'll tell you how we calculate that. The third factor is, it is a fairly good and reliable indicator of health-related physical fitness, body mass index, and it has been categorically mentioned in the various advertisements, especially during the National Nutrition Week, which we celebrate every year, and also by the National Institute of Nutrition, that body mass index alone cannot give you everything or very precise readings, but it is a fairly good and a reliable indicator. We all know how to calculate this. We have been doing this. Then second factor is to consider waist to hip ratio in order to understand the factor of body composition. So in inches, when we divide waist circumference by the hip circumference, this gives us an ratio. Now there are some technical points that need to be taken care of here. For men and women, the waist circumference calculation or the measurement is different. So I'm not going too deep into that, how to do proper measurement. You can see that by searching on Google, but it has to be very accurate for men and women because the calculations are different. The body structure is different. Men have apple-shaped body and women have pear-shaped body. That is why there is a little bit of alteration always when you measure the. So be very careful when you are measuring the waist-hip ratio circumference. So let us take an example. Sample calculation. मान लीजिए हमारे सामने एक example है. We want to calculate for an 18-year-old boy. So age is given, that is 18 years, and gender is given, that is a male. And we want to calculate actually how much is the carbohydrate required. Diet जब भी हम बनाते हैं तो आपको पता होगा हर एक व्यक्ति हमसे ये पूछता है कि I am of this much of age and I am this much active and this please tell me what should I eat. तो पहला क्वेश्चन आपका क्या होता है? हम ये पूछते हैं एज एन एक्सपर्ट कि व्हाट इज योर टारगेट. डू यू वांट टू लूज बॉडी वेट, डू यू वांट टू गेन बॉडी वेट, आर यू इंटरेस्टेड इन बिकमिंग अ a professional athlete? Do you want to do bodybuilding? Or do you just want to maintain your body weight? It can be either way around. But before doing any kind of nutritional counseling, these are some of the basic things which we must be able to understand. So the carbohydrate requirement is now required to be calculated here. As a first example, later on I'll tell you protein requirement. So once you have calculated carbohydrate, fat and protein requirements, then we can suggest what are the different sources of protein, carbohydrates and fats. So just giving a general information that you consume this, you consume that is a different aspect. But calculating in a scientific and a systematic manner is a most important factor, because that will help you from escaping those pitfalls and guessing too much. So the particular standard deviation of your calculation will be lower and lower. This range will be lesser and lesser. So the type 2 error and type 1 error of your calculations can be easily taken care of if you are using these formulas. So here the problem is that this particular child, this particular teenage has 60 kg body weight, that is 132 pound of weight. Now here we don't know what is the level of activity. The only thing which we do not know is the activity factor. So what we know is age, gender. He need to know how much carbohydrate he should consume and what is his energy requirement, that according to his body weight he also required to be calculated. So let us begin with calculate. Before we calculate energy requirement, energy expenditure requirement, we must know BMR and we must know the other two factors, that is BMR, the waist stiff ratio, the body mass index and the activity factor, in order to calculate the carbohydrate requirement. So the first equation which I am using according to this table is, since the child is between 15 to 30 years, so I am using this first equation here. As you can see in this calculation, BMR of this person is 1597. What is the meaning of this? It means that he is approximately burning 1600 calories while doing regular activities, while he is sedentary, while he is sitting, walking, talking. I mean, whatever minimum amount of energy, his vital functions, heart rate is doing, his breathing, his heart rate is working, his body is, preparing, all kind of chemical reactions are going inside the body. This is his BMR. Now, second factor is the activity factor. Now, from this table, suppose he says that I am moderately active. That means doing jogging 2 to 3 times a day, doing aerobic dance or light swimming. Light swimming 2 or jogging not more than 3 to 4 times a day, 2 to 3 times a day for 30 minutes and at moderate intensity, a moderate intensity workout. We call that moderate intensity activity factor. So the multiplication factor which we are going to use here is 1.6. If you have your copy and pencils, you can use it. You will be also able to calculate the calorie requirement and then later on suggest the nutrition and diet chart. So say he is moderately active, then the multiplication factor which we are using here is 1.6. So as I said earlier, the energy need per day will be BMR multiplied by the activity factor. So earlier in the previous slide, you have seen that his requirement is approximately 1597. That is, if we make a round figure, we can call it 1600 calories. That is his BMR multiplied by the activity factor. So the total calorie requirement of this gentleman is 2555 kilocalories, which is the estimated energy requirement. For what? For him to continue his moderate activity lifestyle. Given that his age is 18 years, given that his body weight is 60 kg. Now, what is his target? If we want to convert this into kilojoules, then we can multiply 2555 by 4.18. That will come out to be around 11,000 kilojoules of energy requirement. Now, let us see how many carbohydrate is required by this. Now, since we know that this person is 60-year-old, he is 18 years of age, and his calorie requirement is 2555. As I said earlier, that by default we are consuming around 55 to 60% of the carbohydrate. तो अगर मैं इसको 55 to 60% of 2555 कैलोरी निकालूंगा, तो you can get the carbohydrate intake. Just like here, अभी मैंने 55% बोला था. 55% means multiplication factor of 0.55. So we have already calculated his energy requirement, right? Estimated energy requirement in order to maintain this 60 kg body weight. So if we multiply this by 55%, or we can say it's 0.55, we will see that the carbohydrate requirement is 1405 kilocalories if he wants to maintain his body weight at 60 kg. अब अगर वो बच्चा हमें ये कहता है कि मुझे बॉडी वेट गेन करना है क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि मैं बहुत पतला हूँ, 18 ईयर्स की एज में लोग मुझे पतला पतला कहते हैं, मुझे चिढ़ाते हैं, आई एम टू स्किनी, आई वांट टू गेन बॉडी वेट. सो व्हाट डू वी डू? We'll talk about that later. Now, the energy requirement of how many grams need to be calculated. We'll go about that because we know that this much of kilocalories is required to be calculated, is required to be consumed, right, for this person. But how much energy? Because whenever we consume food, we measure that in terms of grams. So just to convert it into grams, 350 grams per day of carbohydrate must be consumed by this boy if he wants to maintain 60 kg body weight. Now, if he wants to increase his carbohydrate intake, then what we do is we tell him to incorporate 50 grams more. That means his requirement of carbohydrate will be 400 grams per day, provided that he is burning that number of grams also, that number of calories also through physical activity. Because what we want is that if we only tell him that you start consuming this much of more carbohydrate, he will start gaining body weight. But that will convert into fat. That will not be converted into fat-free mass. That is why before prescribing any kind of excessive carbohydrate intake, we must incorporate the physical activity factor also. We will calculate that physical activity factor. So here is the requirement of 350 grams per day with regard to carbohydrate requirement. तो हमें ये पता लग गया है कि इतना कार्बोहाइड्रेट 350 ग्राम. अब ये आता है कि हाउ टू गेट दैट कार्बोहाइड्रेट. कार्बोहाइड्रेट मिलेगा कहाँ से? नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन उस बच्चे का ये होगा जब हम काउंसलिंग कर रहे होंगे कि ठीक है, मुझे पता लग गया है कि मुझे 350 ग्राम्स कार्बोहाइड्रेट कंज्यूम करना चाहिए रोज, बट मैं कैसे खाऊं उसको, किस फॉर्म में खाऊं? नाउ हियर कम्स another counseling challenge for a nutritionist or a nutritionist or a dietitian. I'll give you example. Let's say 15 grams of carbohydrate can be found in one slice of bread, white bread or a whole grain. A small idli can also give you 15 grams. तो आपको क्या लगता है कि 350 ग्राम्स की जो उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट है, तो क्या वो 10 इडली खा लेगा? 10 इडली खा भी लेगा तो 150 ग्राम्स मिलेगा ना उसको कार्बोहाइड्रेट. तो केवल इडली खाकर 20 इडली 40 इडली खाकर तो कार्बोहाइड्रेट की रिक्वायरमेंट पूरी होगी नहीं उसकी. इसका मतलब क्या है कि हमें उसके जो मील्स को डिवाइड करना पड़ेगा ताकि उसकी कार्बोहाइड्रेट की रिक्वायरमेंट, बॉडी वेट मेंटेन की रिक्वायरमेंट पूरी हो जाए. इसीलिए आई टोल्ड यू द कैलोरी डेंस कंसेप्ट. It is not the amount, it is the quality of nutrition that is important. So half a cup of dalia during lunchtime or during breakfast, half a cup of pasta cooked, half a cup of wheat sprouted is going to give him 15 grams of carbohydrate. Or a paneer paratha, half paneer paratha is also going to give him essential carbohydrate. Now, please remember that carbohydrate in the form of chapati, slice, and bread is actually least required because they are not calorie dense. When I talk about calorie dense, I would suggest wheat sprout, dosa, dalia, and pasta more. because it is not only lighter on your stomach but gives you equal number of calories and equal number of carbohydrates in terms of grams, because you feel you eat more but still you feel less fulfilled. Similarly, if you want to suggest a diet of 50 grams of carbohydrate, a wheat biscuit cereal 60 grams, 5 biscuits if he is consuming, it will give him 50 grams of carbohydrate. Please remember what was his requirement. His requirement was 350 grams per day. So 60 grams of or 5 biscuits of carbohydrate with milk. If he consumes milk with this, he is going to have around 70 grams of carbohydrates. So twice a day, if he is consuming milk and he is consuming sprout and he is consuming porridge, or a chapati, 150 grams of chapati, or fruit filled biscuits, 5 fruit filled biscuits, all these their diets, a banana, 2 medium large banana is going to give him 50 grams. Remember here again, this banana, fresh fruit salad, the fruit filled biscuits, the chapatis, the bread rolls, they are all healthy choices because they are rich in not only carbohydrate but they are giving him essential vitamins and minerals as well. A large fruit, mango, pear, or a grapefruit. So, 2 to 3 fruits are going to give him 50 grams of carbohydrate. So, accordingly, we can distribute this particular meal throughout the day such that his requirement of fruits, his requirement of carbohydrate intake is taken care of, not just by vegetables and fruits, but also through dairy products. So 50 grams of carbohydrate can be taken care of by consuming sugar and confectionery items. Remember, only when the person is physically active, the sugar can be metabolized. This is not to be given to a person who is not physically much active. In the form of flavored milk, in the form of yogurt, the person can easily take care of carbohydrate utilizations. Always remember, whenever an athlete goes for carbohydrate loading, one should, whenever there is a performance coming, there is a competition coming, the carbohydrate loading or the consumption of carbohydrate should be lowered accordingly, because the training component of exercise also tapers. So when the training load is decreasing, there should be lesser and lesser consumption of carbohydrate loading, so that your body is actually, while training, also learning carbohydrate sparing and utilizing more and more fat to produce more and more energy. Otherwise, what will happen is your body will get rid of or get devoid of too much of glycogen content in the muscles and blood, and even the stored carbohydrate in the liver will also get consumed. And because of the lack of oxygen during that high intensity effort of yours in the last few minutes, your body fuel won't be available by burning fats. That is why carbohydrate sparing mechanism has to be taught through training and through regular nutrition amongst the athletes, I'm saying, because the athletes more often falls into these pitfalls. They suffer, their performances suffer just because they are not able to understand the concept of utilization of fat and carbohydrates. So as far as protein is concerned, how do we calculate the intake of protein? Same, just as the carbohydrate table, the protein factor need to be taken into consideration. As a thumb rule, now the National Institute of Nutrition says that for people who are moderately active, not more than 0.8 grams of intake of per pound of body weight. Here it is per pound. Please remember, it is not per kg body weight per gram, but it is per pound. These are the protein factors that need to be considered. Now let us consider again the same example. The body weight is 60 kg. Activity factor is low to moderate, that is 0.5 pro factor. So the protein requirement will be the multiplication of 132. This is the body weight, and the protein factor is 0.5. Why I have taken 0.5? Because the athlete is doing low to moderate exercise. If it is endurance training athlete, then the multiplication factor here will be 0.6 to 0.8 grams requirement. So it is very clear that per day requirement is actually 66 grams per day. If an athlete is doing endurance training, according to the previous table, we take 0.7 and the requirement of protein intake increases. So as we have seen in the previous example, same 18-year-old boy who was having 60 kg body weight, his energy requirement was around 2600 calories. So from carbohydrate, we had calculated that 350 grams he need to eat every day. And from protein, just now we calculated he need to consume 66 grams per day. And now the total requirement from carbohydrate and protein is actually 1669. That is around 1700 calories should come from carbohydrate and protein if that child is 18 year of age and he wants to maintain his 60 kg body weight and he is moderately active. Here is the richest sources of protein. All green, dark green leafy vegetables, cucumbers, cabbages, tomatoes, because they are not only rich in protein, but also they contain phytochemicals and also lycopene. The avocado is a very good source of not only protein, but also fat. The broccoli, cabbage, the beetroots, cauliflowers. So these vegetables actually called vasodilation and improved circulation of nutrients also to the vital organs. So improving upon the performance. So I won't dwell too much upon fat, just to give you the energy requirement of fat. The only multiplication factor change here is multiply that by 0.30. To give you an example of the same person, how much fat that person requires, same 18-year-old boy, if he wants to maintain 60 kg of body weight, the multiplication factor is 30% requirement of fat. Here 30% requirement of body fat I have deliberately taken because this person is actually moderately active and he just want to maintain his body weight. Therefore, extra source of fuel, that is fat, is more required for him. Otherwise, if I reduce the body fat factor, the consumption of body fat, he will become too lean. So the maximum fat requirement for this person is 85 grams intake daily requirement for maximum from fat per day. So the total requirement 15%. If we say it 15%, suppose if here it is 30%. If I say it should be less, for example, if he is doing more exercise, more vigorous exercise, and his requirement of protein will increase, obviously. His requirement of carbohydrate will also increase automatically if he is doing more exercise. So obviously, because recovery is more important, so protein component I will have to increase. And during workout, carbohydrate is more consumed. Therefore, I will have to increase the carbohydrate requirement also. Why I'm saying this is from moderate intensity workout, he is going to above average heavy workout. So in heavy workout, recovery is important and stored energy, immediate rich source of energy is more required. Rich source of energy is carbohydrate, and for recovery, protein requirement is more. So what will suffer more? Of course, the fat will be utilized more and more, but the requirement of fat as an energy requirement through fat will reduce. So automatically, when I am increasing the carbohydrate and protein intake, the fat requirement will decrease, and it will decrease. It should not decrease less than 15%. Always remember, fat is never going to be a limiting factor. It will be the carbohydrate which is going to be a limiting factor for the exercising muscle. So if we sum up everything for this 18-year-old boy, you can clearly see that the maximum energy is consumed in the form of carbohydrate through carbohydrate. Through protein, it is 66, and through fat, it is 43 grams per day. So the total energy in terms of consumption is 460 grams, that is 2052. If I want to at all increase his performance by making him more and more physically active, I need to then manipulate these values, just as I told you in the previous slides. Similarly, whenever if we want to calculate these for a sports person, for example, here is an example of a 60 kg hockey player. So this is how we calculate the carbohydrate requirements, and accordingly we can calculate the protein energy requirements, fat energy requirements, and then we recommend or prepared a diet chart more effectively. So all these diet charts are available with me. I can share them with you. There is no issues at all, and you can once and for all you can feed those values. It will be very easy for you to calculate, and then this is the water requirement formula. So thank you very much.